everyone, and welcome to Playing to Heal, Supporting Young Children Through Trauma. I am Heidi Parker. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Community Initiatives Manager here at Arts and Healing Initiative, and I am your Zoom host today. This program is presented as part of Hope for LA, a special weekly series that aims to support our Los Angeles community amidst the unprecedented wildfires that have devastated our city. Each session will offer supportive space for connection and healing as we navigate recovery, rebuilding, and restoration. While this series was developed as a response to the situation here in LA, the topics are accessible for anyone navigating the current challenges in our world. We are recording today's session in speaker view to be shared on our YouTube channel, and you are welcome to participate as you feel comfortable. Our session today is scheduled for 1 hour, and feel free to add questions in the chat as they arise or use the raise hand function. We are grateful that you have joined us tonight and want to take a moment to recognize the profound mental, physical, and emotional impacts of this challenging time. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Tongva Nation, on whose home and land the unceded territory of Los Angeles resides. As we are reminded of our environment's vulnerabilities, we hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. By their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. So let us reflect on and honor with gratitude the Indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. I'd like to welcome Dr. April Duncan. She is a racial trauma expert with over 10 years of clinical experience and collaborative work with various stakeholders in schools, the juvenile justice system, and the child welfare system. She's a leader in her field in advocating for the mental health needs of Black children and is the founder of BMH Connect, an organization focused on Black youth empowerment through the use of play therapy. She is the author of Black Students Matter, Play Therapy Techniques to Address Racial Trauma in Black Students, and is an adjunct instructor in the online MSW program at Tulane University. And I will turn it over to Dr. E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I hope you all are doing well and hope you're safe with the new weather that's coming through. I was enjoying reading the songs in your chat, so thank you so much. Mine is Missy Elliott, Lose Control. I don't know, it's just something about that song. Yeah, I'm getting some head nods. Every time it comes on, it just, no matter what mood I'm in, it's just that music makes you lose control. I don't know what it is. So thank you so much for joining us. I am going to do a small pivot because we weren't quite sure if we were going to have caregivers on with their children. So I didn't put together like a PowerPoint presentation, but we still have some good information that I feel is going to be valuable for you to take with you, and how trauma affects young children. So it's going to be more conversational. At any point, if you have any questions, you are very welcome to raise your hand, your fancy Zoom hand, if you know how to do that, or put it in the chat. It's always important to me that when people come into these spaces, that they leave from there having the information that you felt like you were seeking whenever you decided to spend time with us. So let me ask you, and you could just show me like with your hands, and it's 1 to 5, how would you rate your knowledge of how trauma impacts young kids? 0 is like, I don't know anything, and 5 is like, I'm the best. I know everything. I can teach this. Give me the mic, right, Mary? We got some 2s, some 3s. Oh, we got a 4. Okay, Mary, a little 3.5, 2. Okay. All right. So the main thing to know about trauma, we've got some 2s in the chat. Thank you so much for those. The main thing to know about trauma is that trauma is subjective. What can be traumatic for one person may not be traumatic for another person. And what's really important to know is that trauma affects kids just like it affects adults, but it presents itself in different ways. And so there's something called adverse childhood experiences. These are things that happen in a child's life that can cause disruption to their development. So, as an example, the COVID-19 pandemic was an adverse childhood experience. The wildfires was a childhood experience. Sometimes when we hear trauma, we oftentimes just think about abuse and neglect. And actually, it's things like being in a scary car accident. Now, for young kids, oftentimes they don't have the words to be able to explain. I'm very afraid because every time I hear, fire trucks, I'm worried that the fire is going to be near us. It shows in their behavior and it shows in their play. So, one of the resources that is going to be provided for you today is this handout that I actually got from FEMA, and we're going to use that as a guiding point to talk through what trauma can look like, how it can present in young kids. And then we're going to spend some time talking about some ways that play can be used with young children to help connect with them and to help them heal from their traumatic experiences. So this specific document does have information for children of all ages. For the sake of this training, this presentation, we're just going to focus on kiddos 1 to 5. So as mentioned up here, there are 5 important factors that really contribute to how a child, or if a child is going to have a response as a result. Okay, perfect, Heidi. I was making sure y'all could see my screen. 1, the child's perception of the adult's reactions to the disaster. Kids absorb energy, right? So if a caregiver is super anxious about things, then a child will also oftentimes struggle with anxiety. If the caregivers, if they had a very nonchalant attitude about it, then the child also may have that as well too. There is someone named Gary Landreth in the play therapy world, and he talks about a story where he says he came home and saw that his kid was in the bathroom, like wrapping up their hand. And they said, "I didn't know that you were hurt." And he said, "I didn't know you were here." What that means is I would have made a noise, right, if I knew that you were here. So what that means is sometimes an adult's reactions can be a lot more, can make things a little bit more extreme or a little bit more scarier for kids because of those reactions. So we want to make sure that the adults in the lives of our young kids are getting the help that they need to be able to process any of the things that the family may have gone through. It can be hard as an adult, as a caregiver, to watch your kids go through those things. And so parents need support as well, too. The amount of the direct exposure that the child had to the destruction of the disaster, a child that had to evacuate versus a child that didn't have to evacuate are going to have very different reactions. A child who lost their home versus a child who didn't doesn't mean that one trauma is bigger or um, more impactful than the other. Everyone's just built differently, and you really don't know until a situation happens how it affects someone. A child's developmental age. So in play therapy, um, we don't tailor our activities based off of the child's chronological age. So if they're 7, we actually are seeing what their developmental age is, because like I mentioned, trauma can result in developmental delays. So for younger children, one of the things we're going to talk about is sometimes we'll see some regressive behaviors, which can be very frustrating for caregivers. Um, Kids that are potty trained now are all of a sudden having accidents. Kids that knew how to tie their shoe all of a sudden now don't know how to tie their shoes. And the parents will think like, oh, they're just doing this to be ornery, right? Well, actually, it's a loss of developmental milestones. Their fine motor skills are affected, and they regress sometimes. And so when we are doing activities, we actually are thinking about developmentally, what is this child's age? So that's really important. The existence of family or other problems that were prior to the event, if the child's family already had some things happening in the home or in the family system on top of the wildfires, then that's going to put a child at a higher probability of having some of these presenting problems that we'll talk about, presenting behaviors. And then if they had a prior experience in another disaster, that just compounds that as well too. So children at this age, 1 to 5, are very vulnerable to changes in routine. Something so minor can be something big for a young kid. So we want to establish a normal routine or try to find some bit of normalcy that was existed prior to the event, because that could be really helpful for children. If they have to go to a new school, if the school maybe isn't inaccessible and they're maybe going to a different school or YMCA or things like that, something so minor can be very big for a young child. Again, this is important because caregivers may feel like nothing's changed. I mean, yeah, they're going to a different school, but that's it. For younger kids, especially after a disaster, that can be a big thing. As I mentioned, they lack the ability to verbalize their feelings. So we might see this in tantrums. Sorry, y'all. I was trying to avoid telling y'all I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a 3-hour difference. Just roll with me, okay? um, the child lacks the ability to verbalize their feelings. So one activity that we can do is called a feelings heart activity. And the feelings heart activity, um, again, I'm kind of pivoting, but we're going to make this work. I'm going to show you it's a very simple, easy activity to make sure that we're checking in with kids about their feelings. And that's what's really a big thing. That's the foundation of children that have trauma. We want to help them build their emotional vocabulary in order to help them communicate what's going on with them. So this is just on a notepad, but you see my little heart. So what you do is you have the child identify a feeling that they're having. I've done this also with stamps as well too, remembering that some of our younger kids, again, they may have lost their fine motor skills, so coloring could be something that could be kind of difficult. So I'm gonna pick a feeling. So maybe I'm feeling a little sad, I'm feeling tired, but I'm also feeling happy. This is helpful to help kids understand that we can have a lot of feelings at the same time, but some feelings are big and some feelings are little. So what we would then do is have the child pick a color for each feeling. So I'm going to pick blue for sad. And then I would color the amount of sadness that I feel in my heart. So maybe it's just this. Boop. And then you do that for all of the colors. This is a really good way to maybe check in with kids daily to see how their feelings are, because those feelings can fluctuate. And it's a good way to help children just be able to check in. Adults can do it as well too. It's a good way to model to them um, how you can express your feelings. So I'm just going to color the rest of it. It's supposed to be purple. Sis is tired, but that's my heart. Okay. So feelings heart activity is a really good activity. Another activity that you can do is feelings hide and seek. So, there is someone named Todd Parr, and I like his books and things like that because they're very inclusive. I call them like Simpsons people. So they're like purple and green and red. So, it's inclusive of all cultures and races and ethnicities. And they have different feelings, uh, flashcards. You also can make them with the kids, or, they like emojis. So you can print some emojis and hide those in different places. Obviously, with younger kids, we don't want to make it too hard. So we're going to make it kind of obvious. And every time they find the emoji or they find the feeling, they would name a time that a child would feel that feeling. Notice that I said they would name it what another kid would do. Young kids are in the ego stage, which means they're very narcissistic. It's all about them, right? And so they may struggle with saying, I'm sad. I'm sad whenever I have to go to bed early, but they will name things for other kids that really is a reality for them. So they may not be able to say, this makes me sad, but they'll say, oh, kids get really sad when they have to go to bed early. So with younger kids, that can be a really good way to help with the emotional vocabulary is what makes kids sad? What are some things that make kids happy? Because that's a way that they can be able to process that. And then someone in the chat mentioned also there's a book called In My Heart. So that can be a fun activity that you can combine with that. Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, hopping back. Boop, boop, boop. To our reactions. They also lack this conceptual skills to cope with sudden stress. And so that's why those minor changes can be something big to them. So we also want to work with the parents on how to regulate themselves. Self-regulation is key. But we can't have kids do something that parents can't do themselves. Because again, remember, kids feed off of parents. So teaching parents how to regulate, teaching them how to use their iMessages. I feel really frustrated or I feel really embarrassed when you throw yourself on the floor in the middle of the grocery store because people were looking at me. Teaching parents how to model those things are really important too. They also are affected by the reactions of not just family members, but also school personnel. So if you're working with schools, this information is very valuable for teachers as well. So some of the common behaviors you might see is some kids may not have a reaction at all. Those are the kids I worry about the most. I say it's really easy to help our kids that have what's called externalizing behaviors, right? The crying, the tantruming, the throwing of things, hitting people, all of that. But the kids that internalize, they hold it in. And they fly under the radar because their behavior is not so in your face. I will tell you, even if a child isn't showing anything, anytime anything happens in our lives, we're impacted by it. And so that's why having these activities like a feelings heart and things like that can be really helpful as a check-in for some kids that are showing no reactions. Some may deny the event. They also might show behaviors of being nervous. Pay attention to things that might be sensory triggers, whether it's smells or sounds. Or anything like that. They also might be really irritable, which really kind of just gets on parents' nerves because they're like, what are you? You're walking around with an attitude, or what's wrong with you? Why do you have such a short fuse? And so it's helping caregivers understand that I always say kids are just little human beings and we need to give them the space to have the full range of emotions that we have as adults, and give them grace. You might see some disobedience as well too. And so working with caregivers to take a step back and to I always say doesn't give you excuse, but it gives context, right? That your child might be more disobedient because they're struggling with processing the event that happened. We still want to teach kids to be obedient, but we want to be mindful that we're not only just punishing it and getting upset with the kids. All of this is to help us understand what they might be going through. Hyperactivity. So an activity I was going to do, but I'm just going to show a little bit of it. This is like my jam. Have y'all heard of Cosmic Kids Yoga? No. Yeah, no. It's a lifesaver. One of my best friend's son, love him, 4 years old. That baby has energy. He will sit there and just shoot 200 shots. He'll count to 200 in a row without stopping. Okay. I told her about Cosmic Kids Yoga. She was like, girl, thank you so much. Cosmic Kids Yoga is a YouTube channel. And there's this amazing human being that has the time, space, and energy to dress up like different characters. And what I enjoy about it is this is a really good activity for children that have hyperactivity because it's doing yoga, but it's doing yoga in a way that's very active. And so it's really good for my kids that have a lot of energy. And let me do,
Say,
there we go.
hello, sun. Now we fold all the way forwards and we wave down at that beautiful earth and we say, hello, earth. We step one leg all the way back and come into our sonic runner's pose. Now we take our other foot back. We drop down onto our knees and lower all the way down onto our tummies.
Okay, so we get the idea. So she has like a million videos. So Moana, Frozen, if you could think about it, that kids love, there's a Bluey one. So that can be really helpful as well too, to do with kids. It's something that parents and families can do together as well. And it's a good way to bond and also help with some things that can help with regulation as well too. Okay. Whenever I'm prepared, I had everything queued up, ready to go. But that's all right. We just roll with we figure it out. Okay. Tics, you might also have children that start to develop tics. Again, there's this, when we think about the neurological aspect of this, that could be something that is affecting children. You might also see some speech difficulties. And remember, these are things that are different. When you think about the child prior to the event, these are behaviors that are newer, okay? Anxiety about separation from parents. Younger kids oftentimes struggle with separating from caregivers after a scary event. And so, thank you very much. And so, helping caregivers manage the anxiety with that. So an activity I've done with that before is something I call pocket hearts. So I'm a person where smells, I connect with smells. Smells are a very calming thing for me. So I'm a military kid. And so whenever my parents would go on what's called TDYs, their temporary duty, I would put on their perfume or their cologne so I could feel closer to them. So as an adult, as a play therapist, I created this activity called Pocket Hearts. And it is taking felt and making two hearts so you can close it, but you put the smell of whatever perfume or cologne that the caregiver wears, and it goes in a cotton ball inside it, and you close it up like with a hot glue gun or something like that. And it becomes something that the child can keep on them, that if they need to feel close with their caregiver, they have this tangible thing that has a scent that also they can feel connected to them. Some caregivers don't wear the same perfume or things like that. I had one caregiver that didn't wear perfume, but she always used the same shampoo. So I had her bring in her shampoo and we put the shampoo on the cotton ball. And that was something that was very helpful for the child. We also might see a shorter attention span. This may, again, things that kind of caregivers are like, what's going on? They're not listening. An activity that can be helpful for that is we use charts. So the charts, though, are they're tailored to the kids. So for example, typically we have a morning routine. And if parents don't have a morning routine or a bedtime routine, this is helpful to help them create one. So morning routine, typically it's wake up, brush your teeth, put your clothes on, go downstairs, eat your breakfast, put your book bag on, put your shoes, we're leaving, right? Caregivers get really frustrated when children have those shorter attention spans because they're continually repeating themselves. So what you would do is you would take a picture of the child doing each activity, each step, brushing your teeth, clothes, book bag, food, shoes. I'm a little out of order, but you're rolling with me. And have a poster board and name it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put the pictures in each step. This becomes something that then you can redirect the child to, hey, did you do all your steps? Oh, I'm noticing you don't have your book bag on. I believe in kids earning things. So when we think about screen time for younger kids, what you can do for every step that they get 10 minutes of screen time. And then when they get home, then they're in control, right? And that's really important. When children go through a disaster or a traumatic event, they feel a loss of control just like we do. And so they oftentimes might try to seek control or power in more negative ways. So we want to direct that in more positive ways. And so you can do that spin where they can earn the screen time. Also, if you think about like old school, it's called Chuck E. Cheese now, but showbiz, where you can earn tickets and you can turn the tickets in for something. You can also do something like that, where at the end they can turn in their tickets and they can pick one or two things from Dollar Tree based off of what they earned. And so it allows for children, even young kids, to take responsibility of the things that they're supposed to do. And then it lowers the parents' frustration of continually telling the kids the same thing over and over again. Because what happens is when kids with trauma or kids that have attention problems, whether it's ADHD or trauma, you can't tell them multiple steps because their attention span. So you can't say, hey, when you're up now, brush your teeth, come downstairs, eat, and then when you're done, you need to put your book bag and your shoes on. Oftentimes kids will just freeze and won't do anything. And then the parents go upstairs and the kids just sitting on the bed and they haven't done anything. And so it's also recognizing that because of that shorter attention span, those visual charts is the word I was trying to find, can be very helpful. The next one is you might have some aggressive behavior. Hey, it's scary, it's angry, and I want to hit something. So we want to redirect that in a positive way. Some people have the means to be able to put their kids like in martial arts or things like that. That can be really helpful for impulsivity and for kids that have aggressive behaviors. Some people in our playroom, we keep a bop bag, a little punching bag. Some people have the means and the ability to do that. Not everyone does. An activity I've done with my kids is an anger pillow. I bring them a pillowcase that they can decorate however way they want. They can put the things that make them angry or whatever they want. And we put a pillow in it, and that just becomes their special pillow that they can just go to town on. Something that they can be able to get their frustration out on. Other things is you can also get like bubble wrap. Y'all know bubble wrap, and they can stomp on the bubble wrap. That's another thing as well too. And even allowing them to, I don't know if we still get old school newspapers, aging myself, but shredding newspapers. What happens is caregivers get sometimes, not just caregivers, I would say adults too, they get weary about giving kids things like, oh, if I give them something, they're gonna hit something. So let's give them something that's gonna be an appropriate thing to hit. I do kickboxing. That's an appropriate release of energy. But also then with like the tearing of things, sometimes parents are like, oh, they're going to leave a mess. What's really important to know with trauma also is about the brain, and that our frontal lobe is where we contain our logic, our reasoning, our problem solving, but our brain stem is our fight and flight. That's where the survival brain is. Oftentimes after trauma, children will get pushed into their brainstem a lot faster, which is why they can't use the problem solving skills or the fine motor skills or the things that they had before. And so when it comes to like tearing newspaper, I used to run a therapeutic preschool in St. Louis, and we would have a corner where kids could just tear things up when they were feeling very frustrated. And yes, if they're in their brainstem, they're not ready to throw away the trash. But when they're in their frontal lobe, they're like, yeah, let's go. And you can make it fun. So I would always put my arms around the trash can. Okay, I'm gonna set the timer. How many baskets do you think you can make in like 10 seconds? So as long as we're making things playful, you'll be fine. And then sudden burst of tears. Children, especially young children, can have very overwhelming feelings, and it could be a lot, and they could just come out. Have y'all ever just had a day and then you just started crying out of nowhere? Again, they're just little human beings. And so that's what's going on with our younger kids as well too. So teaching them how to self-regulate can be really helpful. I have a video that I do want us to do after I go through all of these things. It's called progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense different parts of your body and you relax it. This one that we will watch is specific for young children, using terms and things to help them understand. So first, do we have any questions about behaviors, typical behaviors we might see after an event? These are just emotional, behavioral, and then we'll talk about physiological. Doing good?
I have one.
Go for it, Amanda.
How long are you referring to after an event? Weeks, days, months?
Yeah,
What is the time frame that you're considering?
Yeah, great question, Amanda. Again, everyone's different. Some children, you might see these things right away. Some children, it may take a few weeks or a few months for these behaviors, which then is even more confusing for an adult of like, where did this come from? There is no specific answer. Again, similar to us as adults. Sometimes you feel it right away. Sometimes it's after everything clears and it settles, and then you start to see the impacts. Great question, Amanda. Any other questions, friends? So some other things we might see with young children, we might see a loss of appetite or overeating. So if we're seeing a change in the child's eating patterns, that's going to let us know like, wait, they might be having some reactions to the traumatic event. You might also, and I will also say this is more prominent with our children where I talked about the internalizing, where we don't see the external behaviors, but we'll see it through these things. So indigestion or vomiting, we call these things somatic complaints. So if your children all of a sudden are complaining that their stomach hurts or their head hurts or their body aches, again, they're internalizing and the body holds all of that. Think about you whenever you're stressed out. Where do you feel it? It's all in my shoulders. I'm like, I need to get a massage because I can just feel how tight I am in my shoulders. But I'm an adult. I have the words to be able to communicate that. Younger kids do not. So we want to pay attention to if they're talking about feeling sick and things like that, that's abnormal for them. Any bowel or bladder problems, recognizing again, that's a regressive behavior. And then we might see some issues with sleep and nightmares. So two activities that you can do for that is I do this activity called monster spray. When I was younger, I grew up in a Christian household, so it was angel spray, but I call it monster spray. Then that way it can be based off of the person's culture. If they want to bring in religion or spirituality to it, they can. So as a kid, my angel spray in my family, there was always this Bible scripture that we said that, and as an adult, whenever I am scared, it just is an automatic thing. So keep rolling with me, y'all. So the monster spray is literally a spray bottle that has like whatever calming smell that the child likes. Keyword that the child likes. Not everybody likes the smell of lavender. So allowing the child to smell different scents, see which one they like. So you put some oil in there. I let the kids decorate the monster spray. So I've had like googly eyes and pipe cleaners and foam stickers and things like that. And they can make this monster whatever it is that they want. And then they have this spray to spray the monsters to get ready for bed. They can keep it by their bed that if they have nightmares, they can spray it as well too. So it empowers them, that it gives them something to be able to combat the monsters. Going back to the angel spray in the Bible scripture, again, if I have families that are religious, that I know that they're religious, I talk to them like, is there a Bible scripture that you want that you could pair with it that the child can say as they're spraying it? If they're non-religious, what is just like some positive words or some calming words that you and the child can say together. So that's monster spray. Again, similar to the anger pillow, I do a safe place pillow where kids decorate the pillow. They color it with like fabric markers and stuff of their safe place. So this can be their pillow that when they're sleeping and they wake up and maybe they're afraid, you combine this with the monster spray. They can spray the monsters away, look back at their pillow. Okay, I'm safe. And it helps with some of the sleep issues for their younger kids. So some other things that stress you might see in regressive reactions for younger kids is, again, bedwetting. They might begin sucking their thumb, and then they may have these fears now of the darkness, animals, monsters, and strangers. So that's where, again, that pocket heart, self-regulation skills of the caregivers, and having the monster spray can be really helpful. So to reiterate, what's really important is making sure we reestablish comfortable routines for kiddos as much as possible, especially for our young kids. Provide opportunities for them to express their feelings both verbally and non-verbally. So using things like that feelings heart activity we talked about. Giving ample physical comfort. A hug goes a long way. Physical touch goes a long way. And that's for kids of all ages. I had an African-American teen boy that was struggling with some things in his relationship with his mom. And I said, what do you need to do to see that mom loves you? And he said, I just need to hear I love you and get more hugs. It never goes away, friends, right? So I always say sometimes it's just the basics, just spending time with your kids. There's something that comes from parent-child interaction therapy, which is a modality that is used to work on parent-child attachments. And they have something called special time. And the theory behind that is a kid only needs 5 minutes of one-on-one time with their caregiver in order to have a healthy attachment. Now, the thing with special time is, one, you have it every day, regardless of the kid's behavior. Remember, they're struggling. They might be struggling after this trauma. So yeah, maybe they did get kicked out of preschool that day because they hit someone. We have special time no matter what. What they learn is, regardless of my behavior, my parents love me, my grandparents love me, my aunts love me, whoever their caregiver is, and they're going to be here no matter what, even when I make mistakes. So that's one key thing. We have special time regardless of how the day went. We don't take away special time as a punishment. In that 5 minutes, the child gets to pick what they want to play with, and we call that non-directive or child-led play. Again, there's a lot of helplessness and hopelessness that we feel, powerlessness that we feel after a traumatic event. 5 minutes where the child can be in control can go very, very far. When I've mentioned this sometimes with caregivers that, oh, I can't 5 minutes every day. Or I can't do 5 minutes every day at the same time. You don't have to do it every day at the same time. You know, maybe one day because of the scheduling, it's after school. Maybe another day it has to be before school. But either way, 5 minutes, we can take 5 minutes. Most people take more than 5 minutes scrolling on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and everything else. So 5 minutes just for your child every day is something that we try to get parents to commit to. I'm also, Heidi, I'll send you a link. There's something called TheraPlay. TheraPlay is an attachment-based modality similar to parent-child interaction therapy, and it uses very simple games or household items to connect with kids. So for example, one game is sticker match. This can be really good for our kids that are showing some disobedience. So each caregiver and kid get 5 stickers. And if I put my sticker on Vivian's nose, then Vivian has to put the sticker on my nose. And then I'll put the sticker on Vivian's shoulder. And then Vivian has to put the sticker on my shoulder. So it's ways that it's physical touch, we're connecting, but we're also following directions. Another activity they do is bubble pop, where we take bubbles and we name different body parts that the child would use to pop the bubbles. So you blow bubbles, we're going to use our elbows this time, and you pop the bubbles with your elbow. And then we're going to use our knees this time, and they pop the bubbles with their knees. So again, another way to help with following directions, but you're connecting with the child. Another way you can do with bubbles is, and helping with regulation, is taking deep breaths and trying to keep the bubbles up in the air. That's a good way to help kids with regulation. Another TheraPlay activity that are just like basic old school games, patty cake, because you're touching hands. That input, that connection is really important. Peekaboo is really good as well too. And then I just like old school games like a good old Mother May I and red light, green light for kiddos maybe that are struggling with directions and impulsivity. Other things you can do too is, I would be mindful, this has here a physical reenactment of the disaster. As a mental health professional, most of us do things, use a modality called trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And with that modality, we actually don't want clients to talk about the traumatic event until they've had psychoeducation on trauma and how it affects them. They've learned affect regulation, emotional expression. They've learned healthy coping skills. Then we talk about the event. We wait till you have what you need in order to deal with possible triggers that might result from reenacting that event. So I would just be mindful of this one. Again, this was a resource from FEMA. But kids might also then in their play physically reenact what happened. The theory behind play, and I've seen the magic in the work I've been doing in over a decade with this, is children act out what they're going through, and that's the best way that they can process what they're going through. So letting kids play out whatever it is that they're dealing with is one of the most beneficial things that you can do, because that's the best way for them to process what's happened. And then finally, we want to be patient. Again, every kid's different, just like Amanda asked that question. It's like, oh, it just depends, because every kid's different. But you also want to make sure that you are clear on what your expectations, clear about what happened, and also just being clear that, you know, young kids might be scared that there's going to be another fire, and you don't want to tell them, oh, that will never happen again. You want to tell them, you know what? I wonder how that makes you feel to think that there could be another fire. I wonder what some things that worry you about the fire. And then you want to instill safety. You know, if there was another fire, I still would do my best, and we were going to make sure that you stay safe. And so safety language is also important. Any questions on those things? Good to go? Okay. So I have two videos. One is a progressive muscle relaxation. I think we'll go ahead and do that. And then one is something called Kane's Arcade, and I think it's just the cutest video. We're going to do the progressive muscle relaxation, and then we'll check in. And then if anything, I'll show you some snippets of Kane's Arcade. And what I like about it is just showing that you don't have to have a lot for kids. Sometimes we think we need to have the things, you got to have all the toys and stuff like that. Sometimes just some boxes go a really long way, and kids can use their imagination to turn that to some great stuff. But before we get to that, I also want to highlight reading books, spending that time with kids as well too. Um, After the session, some of the resources that are also going to be included are one is a list. Common Sense Media is like the mother lode for book lists. And I see we have Altadena Library representing. That is like they have a list of all types of books, books about consent, books that feature Indigenous individuals, books for disasters. So we have the book list for disasters and for grief things. Sesame Street and Communities as well too. Sesame Street and Communities, the link will be in the resources that are sent out. They have a variety of topics for younger kids to be able to process. They have videos, they have activities, and so that's a really good resource as well. The Association for Play Therapy, which is the accrediting body for us as play therapists, they also have one workbook on disasters. So we did provide that in both English and Spanish. Those are the two versions that are available. So that's another resource that you all can have. And then I like a good dance party as well too. Anytime we can get our body moving. So also if you can get the music on and get bodies moving, that can also be very therapeutic for our children. Okay, so fingers crossed that I don't have any issues with this video. This progressive muscle relaxation, I like it because again, it's very it's tailored for young children, and it's something that you can do with the child. The video is going to say you can do it laying down. You can also do it sitting in your chair. For those that are on screen, if you want, you can go off screen, especially because it's recording. It's going to go on the YouTubes, and we're going to be scrunching up different things and relaxing. But I want you, as we go through this together, I want you to pay attention to what parts of your body feel the best, because that's where you're going to want to tense and release whenever you're having some stress. Okay. Get through the commercial. Okay.
Peace out.
I'm telling you, this is a really odd. Please give me a second. It was pulled up, but then it went to the next.
Do you ever notice how the muscles in different parts of your body can feel sore? This is not just from running or playing. Sometimes when we feel sad, angry, or worried, our muscles feel the same way. The cool thing is, by relaxing our body, we can also relax our feelings. Today we're going to do a muscle relaxation exercise. This is all about making our muscles really, really tight and then relaxing them. It's easy. Just listen to my voice and follow along. This relaxation works best if you lie down. You can close your eyes. Now take a deep breath in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw. Breathe in again through your nose. Breathe out again through your mouth. Keep breathing like this as we begin. Focus on your face. Squeeze your eyes shut, press your lips together, scrunch your eyebrows in, and wrinkle your nose. Imagine your face getting smaller and smaller and tighter until it's a tiny point in the middle of your head. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now relax your face. Make everything soft again. Awesome. Keep breathing. Next, focus on your neck and shoulders. Feel the different areas of your neck and shoulders. There's a front and a back to your neck. Move your focus down to your neck, to your right shoulder and left shoulder. Now, pretend you're trying to see something hidden on a very high wall. Push your shoulders down and stretch your neck up high and away from your body. Tilt your neck up, up, and up. Good. Bring your neck back down and relax. Now, raise your shoulders up to your ears. Pretend you're a little turtle trying to hide your head in its shell. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Your shoulders close to your ears. Great. Now relax and bring your shoulders all the way back down. Keep breathing and feel your shoulders relax. Notice how your arms and hands feel right now. Imagine your arms are made of wood. Pull your wooden arms in towards your body. Lock your elbows. Tighten your wrists. Squeeze your arms, elbows, and wrists. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Great. Relax everything and keep breathing. Next, bring your attention to your hands. Picture lemons inside both of your palms. It's your job to squeeze the juice out of the lemons. Close your fists tight and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Great. Now relax. Let your hands fall open naturally. Wiggle your fingers and then let them relax. Notice what it feels like to relax your hands. Now we're going to pretend you're a knight riding on a horse. It's your job to protect the kingdom from dragons and monsters. You see a dragon, but you realize you don't have your suit of armor on. No problem. You can squeeze the muscles in your chest to protect yourself. As you squeeze, imagine armor is protecting your chest. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Great. Now relax. Imagine you are now lying on the grass somewhere enjoying a nice summer's day. All of a sudden, you hear footsteps of a baby kangaroo chasing her mommy. Uh-oh, the kangaroo might step over you. It's time you squeeze your tummy really tight so that the kangaroo steps over you without squishing you. Pull your tummy in tight. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Relax. You're doing amazing. Keep breathing. Feel your face, jaw, neck, shoulders, arms, hands, chest, back, and tummy are all relaxed. It's time to move to the bottom half of your body. Imagine there is a parade of ants trying to crawl underneath one side of your body to the other side. If you squeeze your rear end, you'll notice that your body rises up off the floor just a little. Give it a try. Lift up and let the ants through. They're going under your lower back. Wait for them all to pass. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Fantastic. Now relax. Last but not least, let's move to your legs and feet. Imagine you are turning into a toy. Your body can bend at the waist, but you can't bend your legs at all. Tighten up the muscles in your thighs. Your legs should become as hard as a plastic toy. Tighten your knees and the backs of your knees. Squeeze your calves and ankles. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Wonderful. Now relax. Curl your toes in and make your feet stiff and tight. You're standing on the toy shelf and you have to be still for 3 seconds until the kids leave. 1, 2, 3. They're gone. You can turn back into a person now. Relax your legs and feet. Let them drop out to the sides however they want to. Notice what this feels like. Let's finish up with the entire body at once. Take a breath. Now, from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet, tighten every single muscle in your body. Get them all squeezed as much as you can. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Release. Relax. Super. Breathe in deeply and let your breath out. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the floor. Let your entire body feel calm and quiet.
Okay.
I
So
can't wait to see.
if in the chat you could put what parts of your body felt the best when you were tensing and relaxing those. Legs. Thank you, Patricia. Mine's always my shoulders. And I noticed that even like when I got on here, that's the first thing I did. I was doing my shoulders because I was trying to release some tension. Thank you, Mary. Shoulders and arms. All right. So I'm just going to show you, we're going to be wrapping up soon. Just a really quick snippet of this again, how these, how some boxes can go a long way. This is Kane, and Kane had some boxes. He was hanging out with his father at a repair shop, and he turned it into this amazing arcade. And it's just a really cool story about like, at first nobody was coming to the arcade. Someone came there and saw how cool it was and posted something on Facebook, and it turned into this huge event where they all came and played at Kane's Arcade. So I think it's a good way to demonstrate again that sometimes we don't need all the things, that a little can go a long way, that we can spark the creativity of our kids. It was pretty cool. He even had a slot where he was behind there pushing tickets out of there as well too. It was like really cool. So a little can go a long way, but also what I think is also important is the adults in the lives of children. We are more impactful, and we are we do more than what we realize. So your presence can do a lot more than what you realize to be able to help a child that's experienced trauma. Okay. Are there any questions? I know we're going to give just a few minutes for Heidi to come on for some things to wrap up, but any thoughts or questions or anything like that for me?
Everyone for joining us tonight, and gratitude to you, Dr. April, for creating a supportive space for everyone and giving them some great ideas and resources. So there'll be so many resources in the follow-up email. Would just like to extend our appreciation for our donors and the LA Department of Arts and Culture, who continue to make the Hope series possible. And then, as I mentioned, that follow-up email will have not only resources, but that will also have the survey link that you're welcome to fill out to help us plan future events. And we have upcoming sessions the next 2 Thursdays, and then our March and April Hope series are listed here as well. So we hope to see you at one of these sessions, and I hope everybody, if you're in Southern California, that you stay safe and dry over these next couple of days, and that everybody has a restful weekend.